538 has just released a very cool new feature on their website. It's a simulation of sorts that lets you see how Trump and Biden's chances change by winning certain states on election night. Currently, based on their model, former Vice President Joe Biden has an 87% chance of winning the election, and he is projected to receive 345 electoral votes to President Donald Trump's 193. But what we're going to be doing in today's video is messing around and sort of just playing around with all of the probability and the statistics that are featured in this model. First of all, why don't we officially mark all of these safe states for both candidates? So for Joe Biden, that includes the Pacific Coast states of Washington, Oregon, California, and Hawaii. Then the formerly competitive states of New Mexico and Colorado, the big states of Illinois, Virginia, and Maryland. Then we have his home state of Delaware and New Jersey, then New York and its 29 electoral votes, Connecticut, Rhode Island, and Vermont. And then last but not least, Maine's 1st Congressional District. Unfortunately, as of right now, I don't see anywhere where I can put down Washington, D.C. for Joe Biden, so he'll have to be at 207 electoral votes. Down here on this counter you can see at the bottom, instead of 210. And so for the remainder of the video, he'll be 3 electoral votes behind where he actually should be, so just keep that in mind. Now below that counter, you can already see that Joe Biden's chances have gone up 4% to 91% overall, just by having won all of these states. However, let's see what happens and how things balance out when we mark all of these safe red states, including Alaska, Utah, Idaho, Wyoming, Montana, North Dakota, South Dakota, and all of Nebraska's electoral votes except for its 2nd Congressional District, then Kansas, Oklahoma, Missouri, Arkansas, Mississippi, Alabama, Tennessee, Indiana, and West Virginia. Now with those states having been marked, Joe Biden's chances have dropped all the way back to where they were when we started. However, his electoral vote projection has dropped down to just 331 from 345 at the start, and Trump's has risen to 207 from 193. Having said that though, Trump is still 154 electoral votes away from re-election, and Biden is just 63 away from the White House. Although that does lead me to the most interesting part of this forecast, which is how candidates' chances of winning individual states change with every pick. For example, the state of Michigan now has a 94% chance of going blue, up 2% from what it was originally. Putting that aside though for the end of the video, what we will do now is mark down all of the likely states for both campaigns and see if that changes anything. That means that the states of Nevada and Maine will go to Joe Biden, and then South Carolina will go to Donald Trump. Oh wow, and I'm honestly pretty shocked at how much of a difference that made, as Biden now has a 93% chance of winning just because of Nevada and Maine, 2 states that I don't really think anybody believes are integral to his chances for the presidency. This kind of makes me wonder what would happen if I marked Maine's 2nd Congressional District down for President Trump, which has been borderline likely and lean in my forecast since the start of this cycle, and it's the last state that is not featured up here on this little headshot thing. So Joe Biden's chances would drop by an entire 4% simply based on this measly little congressional electoral vote. I suppose the way that kind of makes sense though is that 538 only gives Trump a 53% chance of winning in that congressional district, and so if he won there, he would statistically have a better chance in other closer races when you're looking at them comparatively. But nevertheless, we can move on with all of these states that are left as battlegrounds listed up here with this cool little headshot thing. The next step in this video is looking at these 4 lean red states I want to mark down that should tighten things overall: Texas, Georgia, Ohio, and Iowa. Now I'm confident in expecting that all 4 of these will go to Trump on election night, And not only does that bring his count up to 204, but his chances at winning the election have jumped up to 20%, which is notably just 10% lower than Trump's final 2016 chances, according to the same forecast. Another thing I noticed is that Trump, based on these calls, is now favored to win in Arizona, Florida, and North Carolina. However, that will probably change when I mark Minnesota, Michigan, and New Hampshire for Biden as his lean blue states. And well, it actually didn't. Joe Biden is now favored to win in Arizona with 51%, but Trump is still up in the other two states by basically the same chances as before. And taking another look down here, Biden's electoral vote projection is now at 300 to Trump's 238. So that is basically the state of the race before calling any of the real battlegrounds. Taking another look though at the two states that remain in the upper Rust Belt, Biden still has an 89% chance in Wisconsin and 88% in Pennsylvania, and of course if he wins both, he has an 100% chance of winning because that would push him over 270 electoral votes. But if we put those two states back to where they were and instead mark down Florida and North Carolina for Donald Trump, it would push him to 248 electoral votes, and his chances would reach their highest point yet, but it is still only 24%. Ultimately, the fact is that Biden's polling advantage in Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania is just such a hard hill to climb for Trump. And even if he were to win in Arizona, where he has a 67% chance of doing so now, his chances would only rise 1 point above where they were in 2016, 31%. Obviously, we know now that he did end up winning that election, but his chances of doing so, according to the 538 model, were effectively 1 in 3. If you didn't already know, that is effectively how probability works, and I'm actually going to spend some time here on a little rant about how people and their subjective beliefs are actually clouding facts to a dangerous point. The undeniable truth is that improbable things happen all the time. In an effort to drive this point home with a real-life example, I am currently thinking of a number between 1 and 3, and I'll give you a few seconds to try and guess what that number is. Okay, so the number in my head was the number 1. And the chances of you guessing that correctly were almost the exact same as Donald Trump's chances of winning the presidency in 2016, according to 538. If it still is not making sense to you, picture this. Probability is not certainty. Only the people who don't understand that concept are the ones arguing that the 538 model was wrong, because statistically, it actually was not. Ultimately, these forecasts can only give you an indication of who is likelier to win. If Trump wins in all of the states he has so far, including Arizona, his chances of winning are effectively the same as 2016 and the same as you guessing the number that was in my head, 1 in 3. But say that Joe Biden were to win in Arizona, Trump's chances would go down to 1 in 20 or 5%. I really hope that that whole explanation made sense to you, but if it didn't, please make sure to leave any comments or concerns in the comment section down below, and I will do my best to answer them. However, I wanted to end this video with a purely hypothetical situation for research purposes and just for a bit of fun. If Trump were to pull off the upset in Arizona, and then in Wisconsin as well, but Joe Biden were to flip the state of Pennsylvania and Nebraska's 2nd district, we would have that 269 to 269 tie. And it completely discombobulates the forecast in a pretty funny way, as you can see here. That mostly does it for today's video though. Feel free to go check out this model on their website and play around with it any way you want to. Also, let me know what you guys thought of this video as well. I hope you all enjoyed, and if you did, please make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, tune in next time. EP out.